Hey parents, this is our resource video for a level 5 and a level 6 reading level. Today I'm going to go over quickly some of the strategies and some of the skills that your child will need to accomplish reading a leveled book at this level. So first of all, we're going to go over the strategies. All the strategies that your child has already previously learned through levels 1 and through 4 are going to be the same strategies that they use to continue reading in the upper levels. However, some of these things will drop off, like Pointer Pup and even Lips the Fish. But Stretchy Snake and Eagle Eye will still be something that your child will use as they look at the pictures and they stretch through unknown words. They will continue to use the Flippy Dolphin strategy, where they'll flip letters that make multiple sounds if the word doesn't sound right. They'll also use the Chunky Monkey strategy, where they'll look for chunks inside of longer words that they know to help them read the word quickly. Those chunks can also be vowel teams that they've learned, or combinations of letters that they've learned, or even digraphs. Digraphs are two letters that come together to make a sound, like SH, CH, TH. They're going to continue to use Try and Lion, where they'll read the sentence and then they'll read it again if it doesn't make sense. So that's monitoring comprehension, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. And then also the Helpful Kangaroo, that when they've tried all of these things and they still are unsure, then they could ask for help. One of the things that you're going to see in these upper levels is that we're going to start turning the tide from the strategies to also combining them with comprehension strategies. So comprehension is what we've learned from the story. It's what we've taken away after we've read the story. It's what we can remember. And that can be a very difficult task for young learners because they are working so hard on figuring out what those words are that sometimes they're not tracking for meaning. So when we get to these upper levels, we're really going to slow down and start talking about meaning of stories as well. And one of those ways is by developing their schema. Now, schema is just a fancy word for what I know. It's what you can see on the screen here. Schema is something that kids already have exposure to and they have knowledge about. And so we want to tap into what they already know before we read a book. So when we present them with a book, we might say, okay, boys and girls, this book is going to be about apples. Tell me some things that you know already about apples. When we go ahead and we plug into what they already know, we're kind of activating their brain to start thinking about that topic. And then as they read the book about apples, they're going to start saying, hey, wait a minute, I knew that, or I didn't know that. And so they're going to start developing those comprehension skills. We're also going to be looking at predicting. So predicting means to guess what we think will happen next based on what we see in the story. Predicting gets our brain ready to think about what our story is going to be about. And it also helps us to kind of predict what the words might be on the page that we're going to read, which will help us with decoding. Predicting before we read a book is excellent to access the schema that we already have, but to guess what we might be able to read next. And we can also predict as we go through the book before we turn the page. One of the other strategies or comprehension strategies that we'll work on at this level will be identifying the characters in the story. And not only being able to identify or say the characters, but to also examine the characters closely. We call that analyzing characters. And when we analyze a character, we can better predict how the character is going to act throughout our story, which will also help us read words. And finally, we'll focus on the problem and solution. Problem is something that causes trouble for the characters, and the solution is how it's solved. Now, there are some stories that do not have a problem and solution, especially if they are nonfiction. But in all fiction stories, stories that are made up, they will have a problem and a solution. And when we can identify the problem, it will also help us predict what the solution will be, which will also help us predict the words that we might see on the page. So you can see how comprehension of a story, especially in these higher levels, will actually help us predict words that we're going to encounter on a page. Now let me go ahead and share the other level. This is a level E. Now remember, we have leveled numbers and we have leveled with the alphabet letters. A level E is the same as a level 6. We do have a level 5 that floats between a 4 and a 6, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the 6. So you can see that this is titled Fruit Blossoms. Again, this would be an excellent book where we would have to activate what do we already know about blossoms? What is a blossom? What do we see on this page? And we can kind of get some guesses and some thinking going on. Just like before in our lower levels, we'll still want to do a picture walk. It's not a bad idea to look and see what we're going to encounter in this book. It will also help us decode these tricky words that we might encounter as well. So a picture walk, remember, is a quick peek throughout it. So I look at this picture and I think, oh, we're going to talk about orange juice. We're going to talk about oranges. And so I might be able to then predict that I'm going to see the word orange. I might see the word juice. I might see the word tree. I might see the word glass just by looking at these pictures. Now notice that at level 6, we are not seeing any predictable patterns anymore. So we are reading, completely decoding using those strategies that we've talked about prior. Level 6s are multiple sentences, usually 2, 3, and 4 sentences on a page. Again, we use that schema. Hey, what do we know about pumpkin pie? Well, it comes from a pumpkin. What do you think we're going to learn on this page? Asking questions as you read with your child, especially on nonfiction books, help promote that thinking and those comprehension skills. So you can see on a level 6 that we have a lot more words on a page. We have a lot more multi-syllable words or larger words that we may have to decode. But again, those comprehension strategies, now we have to build those up. And when we build those up, then we're going to see that our children are able to decode more and they can predict what these words are going to be quicker instead of trying to work through them. So you can join back here for a level 8 at another time.